Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, blissed. Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yeah.
It's great to hear your voice. It's great to have you back. Dr. Shealy, you've been traveling. Last week you were away teaching. Would you like to share with our class?
Teaching. I had a very large class of 15 very good students. But it was actually out at the farm. It's just that I was there all day.
Would you like to share with us some of the things that you were teaching?
Well, it was what we call optimal health. So we had a full day on the bliss oils, another day on biogenics and all of the self-regulation tools, and then the electronic gadgets, TENS, cranial stimulation, RelaxMate, PEMF, scalar, etc.
Sounds fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And Dr. Shealy, when your students come in, are they practitioners or are they those who want to help themselves?
Well, there was one MD, a plastic surgeon, 2 chiropractors, and one of whom was also a naturopath, and the others were nurses, massage therapists, that kind of thing.
Okay. And what was the biggest when they were leaving? Did they share with you the thing that they thought was most significant that they learned? Were they willing to share that with you?
Well, they were very positive, and I mean, basically, they bought everything on the list almost to take home. It was really one of the most positive groups of people I've ever had as students.
Wonderful. Okay, and I had a question for you. Of all the places you've traveled, throughout the United States, I'm thinking specifically United States, not outside of our borders, where do you like it the best? Where would you, if you picked up roots and moved, where would that be? Or would that still be where you are?
Well, as a matter of fact, it would be here. I've lived in South Carolina, North Carolina, Boston, Cleveland, Wisconsin. But we chose this area because when we came here in 1982, this state was the 49th lowest in total taxes per capita. And I'm more interested in avoiding as much government as possible tonight. So I wouldn't.
It's no longer the lowest, Dr. Shealy.
Well, it's still in the top 40, or the lowest 10.
In terms of real estate taxes,
well, I'm talking about real estate and all of government. All government things. It's not just real estate. That was the biggie, of course.
Yes.
But gosh, our real estate taxes in 30 some odd years have only doubled, which is way below inflation.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Shealy, I have noticed through my travels that people are more careless than ever before in my life. And when I say careless, I mean even in terms of people will buy tools. Let's say it's an electric saw for cutting wood, a circular saw. They'll leave it outside. Extension cords, leave them outside. Things that will rust. Just throw them in the back of the pickup truck. Tools, Just leave them in the back of the pickup truck, and if they don't fall out, that'd be nice. And then they get rusty. That's just a very tiny speck of an example of what I'm talking about in terms of carelessness. Yes.
Well, I think it's not just in those kinds of behaviors, Vince. In my belief system, 97% of Americans are unconscientious. That means they're not organized, they're not responsible. Their behavior is, well, beyond repair.
Beyond repair. That's interesting. Years ago, I was at a convention, and there was a guy there who was representing the rural electric cooperatives in Missouri. And this convention was at the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds. And I happened to stumble in across his booth, and I said, would you consider coming, he was a spokesperson for the rural electric cooperatives. Would you consider coming on the radio and talking about how people can save money with electricity? I said, here's an example. So often I drive past these trailer homes that are falling down. They lean, they've got mold all over them, they've got black mold, green mold, the roof's leaking, trash all over the yard, and the porch light is on all day and all night. And it's just a symptom to me of, I think I'm going to end up paying for that electric bill. Would you come on the radio and talk about how we can save money on electricity and how the rest of us can avoid paying for the bills that are paid for those who don't pay their electric bills? He said, we're not in the business of saving electricity. He wouldn't do it. And that's just an aside to the story. But leaving the lights on, I don't leave my lights on. I mean, even with a solar array and generating our own electricity, I still don't leave the lights on. It doesn't cost me any more or any less if I did or didn't. But I still don't do it because I wasn't raised that way I wasn't raised to waste anything. But that's just one more example. Leaving the cars running, needlessly in a parking lot, just sitting there idling, the windows open. It makes no sense to me. So are you saying that these people cannot be trained? They're past redemption, Dr. Shealy? They're past re-education?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. For most of them, that is true. And that is right. Why the average American dies 21 or 2 years earlier than they should. They are sloppy. I mean, unbelievably, dangerously sloppy in their personal habits. It's all the way up to death.
So that explains why people throw their cans and bags and bottles out their windows, along the roadside, over our fence, where the cows can get cut and hurt. That's the kind of behavior that is a common thread through too many people. I guess that's what you're saying.
I think you got it.
And this carelessness goes even beyond that. It goes into the stupidity realm. So, for example, we now are facing a shortage of helium, the second lightest gas known to man, helium. And we are so careless with this. It's naturally occurring, but you got to find it. And it's not everywhere. And it takes a long time for helium to develop under the Earth's surface. Well, we think it's like plastic. When I say we, I mean the GDP. I'm not talking about you and me, Dr. Shealy. I'm not talking about our class. I'm talking about the generally dumb public. They will go out and buy these party balloons for these 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds for their birthday parties. And they think it's just wonderful because they can get these balloons and they are lighter than air. And if you let go of the string, off they go. And then they land somewhere. Ultimately, the pressure of the helium inside is greater than the air pressure outside. They pop, and they come back to Earth with the string. Cows and other animals eat them, and they die. And not only that, but we've wasted that helium gas, which is really hard to replace. So now there's a shortage of helium. And who's worried about it? These generally dumb people who want party balloons. Unbelievable. And I think that's why I keep saying I know how this all ends. It's the sum of all individual stupidity plus the sum of all individual greed. We're greedy, me first, we want our way, and the heck with everybody else.
You just got a Nobel Prize, in my opinion.
I'm so frustrated, Dr. Shealy. But yet, people say, so how's it going? Or how you doing? And I'll say, I'm angry. But I don't mean I guess I mean I'm disappointed. I am just shocked at the behavior of people who you would think should know better. For example, why would anybody buy a car that, let's say, a wheel? Why would anybody buy a car like a brand new vehicle that has no spare tire? That if 28% of cars have no spare tires, the new cars, 28% have no spare tire. And so if you wanted to buy just the wheel to have an extra one, it would cost between $1,100. Well, let's say if you want a chrome one to match, over $1,100 for the wheel, one wheel. And then you'd have to buy the tire for it and have that mounted. I guess what I'm saying is the lack of preparing, the lack of understanding that if you have a car with all-wheel drive and you get a flat and one of those tires is, 1/3 worn out, just one-third, you'll have to buy 4 new tires because they all have to be the same amount of wear on them. So instead of buying 1 tire, you've got to buy 4. And it used to be that cars would come with a spare tire, and you would rotate those. The spare tire would be just like the same wheel that's on the rest of the car. You take out the spare tire, and you'd put it on. You'd put one of the used tires in the spare compartment. And then you'd keep rotating the tires, so you'd have all 5 tires, the 4 on the car and the spare, all getting equal wear. That was just common sense. But we don't do that anymore. We don't rotate our tires, and we don't even have spares on 28% of the new cars. When we come back, I've got so many questions for Dr. Shealy, including a disease called canine brucellosis that is transferable from dogs to us. Let's talk about that when we come back. That's Dr. Shealy's with us, and we're talking about canine brucellosis. And Dr. Shealy, I'm reading that this is a pretty serious disease, and it can be transmitted from canines to humans. So if your dog has it, you can get it. And it is a pretty serious problem. It affects your bones, your joints, your heart. It doesn't necessarily kill you, but it sure is unpleasant. Dr. Shealy, is this a new thing where we can get diseases that our pets have? Is this something new, or has this been around for a long time?
Well, brucellosis has been around a long time. In fact, the original reason for widespread pasteurization of milk was to stop the spread of brucellosis back, all over the country. Brucellosis is a very chronic and serious and sometimes fatal disease. And all dairy cattle are supposed to be certified to be once a year brucellosis free.
Mm-hmm.
But it also occurs in goats and other animals, and now apparently the latest fling is with dogs.
Yes. And so I've seen people who love their dogs, and their dogs will come up and lick them on the lips and lick them on the face. Is that something that we should avoid?
Well, it does carry risk. No matter who your dogs are, where you live, dogs have no sense of repulsion by things that we consider pretty foul. They eat all kinds of dead animals. They kill animals and eat them. They even eat manure sometimes from cattle or horses. They are not the cleanest of animals.
And sometimes they'll find a nice, fresh cow pie, just manufactured, and they will roll in it.
Oh, yes.
Hey, Dad, look what I just found. And then they'll want to come in the house. Yeah. Yesterday, one of our cats, his name is Red. He's a male, all-black cat, so we call him Red. Well, Red was outside, and he was coming home with a mouse that he just killed. And he wanted to show us that, that he just killed this mouse, and he's probably going to eat some of it, and then the rest of it he's just going to leave, on the back steps for us, just as proof that he's doing his job. To share, that's it. Yeah. So yes, you're absolutely right. They do eat dead animals. We find our dogs, we let them loose on the property. Their job is to protect, and they find all kinds of dead things and they bring them back and they chew on them in the front yard while they're doing their job. And these can be, it looks like deer carcasses from a month ago, but to them it's brand new. Yeah. So what should we do, Dr. Shealy, to protect ourselves from diseases that these our best friends, our cats and our dogs, bring home?
Well, to be quite honest, I'm not sure, because we have dogs that run on a 256-acre farm, and I don't do anything except they bring. This year, however, is the worst year I've ever seen for ticks. They are bringing in and dropping on the floor and then smashing somehow 1 to 3 big bloody ticks every day.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we've been taking them off our dogs as well. It's been really wet, damp, rain every other day here.
Yeah.
It's great for the grass. But okay. Well, one of the things that we have found, and those who don't have animals may not know this, but we have found that if we have cows in a field, the ticks will leave the grasses, the woods, and they'll jump on the cows. And there'll be fewer ticks available to jump on us. So if we were, it's absolutely true. So we are really careful to not go to places where the cows have not been, because we'll get way more ticks. Dr. Shealy and I'll be right back right after these few short commercial announcements. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. Dr. Shealy, I went off on a tangent recently, and I was looking up common over-the-counter type medications. And there's a series of, or a group of antihistamines, and they have names like Claritin, Loratadine, and others. And I think people think, well, if they've got a runny nose, no problem, just take one of these Claritins. Or if they've got if they're sneezy, no problem, take one of these generic type Claritins, which could be called Loratadine. Well, I was looking at some of the complications, and some of these complications seem like they're pretty dangerous to me. And I'll just read some of these off. Headache, sleepiness, feeling tired, drowsiness, fatigue, nervousness, stomach pain, diarrhea, dry mouth, sore throat, hoarseness, eye redness, blurred vision. Let me say that a different way. Blurred vision, nosebleed, skin rash. Now, the reason I'm mentioning these is I envision people behind the wheel of motorized missiles on the road all around us doing 60, 70 miles an hour or more with blurred vision. That's crazy.
Well, personally, I don't mind a drippy nose. Fortunately, I'm not prone to that. But I do not like antihistamines in any form, anytime. What they do to me, they fuzz my brain. I just become unable to think straight. I don't like that. And I am unwilling and haven't taken them for 40 years or more.
Can you tell us how they work? What is it that they do? What does an antihistamine do that would cause blurred vision, or drowsiness, or feeling tired, or fatigue? What happens in the body? Do we know?
Well, they block other healthy hormones like serotonin. Serotonin is your number one, what I call bright-eyed, bushy-tail wake-up hormone. Mm-hmm. Normal, reasonably healthy people, when we wake up in the morning, our serotonin level goes way up. And it stays up until 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and very slowly goes down until its lowest level somewhere around 9 or 10 o'clock at night, when it's converted to melatonin. And the cycle goes on and on. But anytime you take many, many drugs, not just antihistamines, antihypertensive drugs, antidepressant drugs, cocaine, narcotics, opioids, 90% of them have one or more effects on these essential neurochemicals. Now, there are others like dopamine and norepinephrine and epinephrine and adrenaline, but it's, interestingly, yesterday I learned something really interesting. You know what the word pharma, P-H-A-R-M-A, comes from? It's a Greek word.
No, please, yes.
It's a Greek word that means witchcraft and sorcery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, speaking of witchcraft and sorcery, according to rxlist.com, it says, tell your doctor if you experience serious side effects of Claritin, including fast or uneven heart rate, feeling like you might pass out, jaundice, yellowing of your skin or eyes, seizures, or convulsions.
No, just a slight side effect, so-called. It is not a side effect, it is a main effect.
Mm-hmm. It goes on to say, Claritin is taken once a day. Drug interactions may occur with certain antibiotics, antifungal medications, acid-reducing drugs. Warnings may apply to individuals who have asthma, kidney disease, or liver disease. Claritin is generally avoided during pregnancy and nursing. Pregnant women may take Claritin only if it is clearly needed. Nursing mothers should consult their doctor before breastfeeding. Claritin should not be used for in children younger than 6 years of age unless directed by a doctor. And let's see. It says this is not a complete list of side effects that may occur. Call your doctor for medical advice for more. It sounds pretty serious to me. And the reason I'm mentioning this, Dr. Shealy, is this is common. You don't need a script to get it. You can just walk into your local drugstore, pharmacy, Chinese factory outlet, and get a bottle with hundreds of these.
Well, this is our FDA at its best, which is pretty awful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, that was something that the point of this discussion, class, is before you consume anything, like over-the-counter meds or even prescribed meds, don't you think that you should read the complications and the warnings? Don't you think you should do that? Dr. Shealy, any comments on that?
Well, I believe that you should be required to do it. But unfortunately, people don't take any more account of that than they do of eating junk. And this is even worse than eating junk.
Yeah. Over the years, I've been prescribed medications. And my take on that is if the doctor says, okay, take 2 of these. I might take a half of one to start and see what happens. That's if I can cut it in half. Okay. Some medications will warn you don't cut them in half. Do you have any comments on doing a trial to see what the reaction is going to be before you go for the full-blown dose?
I think it's very wise, to say the least, because there's not, I don't know a drug of any kind, including aspirin, which has no negative effects. And, of course, I am rather violently opposed to taking any drug chronically. Now, for acute illnesses, sometimes it can save your life. You've got brucellosis, for instance. But you got to be careful. And even when I was in medical school, we were taught that there were 16,000 people a year dying from taking aspirin.
What is the risk of taking aspirin, Dr. Shealy? Because there are many cardiologists who recommend taking a quarter of an aspirin per day as
and they are stupid as well, because it has now been unequivocally proven it does not prolong life. That just came out in the last month. And that's typical of medical fads that take place all the time. But the main risk is bleeding from the gut, the stomach, or the small, the intestines. But it can be an allergic reaction, and you can die from it. It can affect every organ in your body.
When we take aspirin, Dr. Shealy, a lot of people will have a headache, and they'll just take an aspirin just without even thinking about it. Do we know how aspirins actually work? Do we know what they do? Or do we just know that they do alleviate headache pain?
Well, of course they do. They are anti-inflammatory. I mean, that's their biggest, unequivocal fact. And there's no question that is true. They are. But chronic use of aspirin and all the other so-called NSAIDs can lead to very serious problems, including a type of very mucinous or collagenous colitis.
That inflammation of the colon?
Yes, very serious.
Okay. And is that reversible by stopping the consumption of aspirin?
Rarely. And it's better, but then they give you steroids to try to cure it, and then the steroids cause different problems.
That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Dr. Shealy. Why is it so often that steroids are prescribed? Someone gets sick, ends up in the hospital or the emergency room with all kinds of maladies, and the answer is steroids. What is it that steroids do?
Well, they are the major, ultimate anti-inflammatory drug, but they kill your immune system. They suppress your normal immune system that's protecting you from things. And again, sometimes it can save your life if you're sick enough. But the chronic use of cortisone, prednisone, steroids is not good. In fact,
I was talking with a medical doctor at the University Hospital about prednisone. And he said, you can take this. And I said, yeah, but if I do, won't that reduce the speed at which my body can heal? Won't that prevent me from recovering? Am I going to be slowing down my recovery by doing that? And he said, yes. So I didn't do it. Dr. Shealy, people do stupid things. And I mentioned this story to our son yesterday. I was working with him here on the farm. And I said, there's a story about this young girl. And she was at a New Year's Eve party, and they had a bonfire. It seems like children do that. They like to set fires. And so she was 14 years old when they had a bonfire, and she threw gasoline on the bonfire, not realizing how dangerous that would be. When we come back, I'd like to share with you what happened to her, and maybe we can prevent this from happening to other people. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, normshealy.com. And so here's a situation where this 14-year-old girl was at a New Year's Eve party, and they had a bonfire, and she decided to throw some gasoline on the fire. And, of course, she was burned very, very badly. I mean, very badly. And ultimately, she died of organ failure. She got burned, third-degree burns, over 90% of her body. And 100% of it was caused by her. She did it. She threw gasoline on the fire. I know a full-grown man. He was a preacher. And he is also in the contracting business. And he did the same thing. He threw gasoline on a fire. And I mentioned this to our son, and I said, I can't believe this. He said, Dad, that happens all the time. And he mentioned a friend of the family who did the same thing. You know, one of his buddies threw gasoline on a fire. Dr. Shealy, why is it that when we are burned badly that we have organ failure? What triggers that? Well,
Dead tissue is toxic. Burned tissue is in your body is toxic. The blood flows close to it and picks up garbage. It takes it to every other organ.
Mm-hmm. Very, very sad. Do you have any words of wisdom? I mean, besides prevention regarding this?
Well, I think every person should have courses in a minimum of a 1-year course in common sense. I mean, and my father, at least 75 years ago, I remember saying common sense is the uncommon commodity. And if it was uncommon 75 years ago, it's more so today.
When I was teaching at the high school level, I wrote what I thought should be the curriculum. I mean, who was I to do that? Nobody, right? I was just a teacher. And I thought that there's a better way of doing this. I thought we should teach all children in high school the principles of economics, principles of banking, how to write checks, how to understand how interest works. You know, when you borrow money and when you save money, ethics, and how to run a home, how to actually home finance. And I presented that to the superintendent of schools. I wrote it down. It wasn't just, just my thoughts and, hey, I got this idea. I actually wrote it down. I presented it, and he said, no way. It's never going to happen. No, we are not going to do that. We're going to teach, what the state tells us to teach, which is a function of what the federal government tells us we're going to teach. So no longer do we teach home economics. We don't do that anymore. Home economics is exactly what you're talking about, Dr. Shealy. It's common sense.
Well, I took a course actually in the 9th grade. It taught me the basic economics of checks and all that sort of stuff. It was a course in my school, an elective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's something that I think everybody should experience. How business operates. Everyone needs to know how business operates. Why businesses do what they do. Profit, loss, integrity, morals. But we don't teach it. We don't teach it. But we do teach, fluffy stuff, which makes no sense to me. Fluffy stuff. And we teach history for specific groups of people? Why not teach history that involves all groups of people rather than specific groups of people? Why would we do that? Yeah, we do. And when we come back, Dr. Shealy, we talk about how one company is treating drug addiction with implants. Implants. Can you imagine that? Why do that? We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. Dr. Shealy, I know you've been working with people who have drug addiction, very difficult patients to treat, people who are in a confined area for their treatment, people who are trying to overcome their addiction. There is another way that doctors are treating some of these people who are in the Department of Corrections, specifically Louisiana Department of Corrections. They have 10 patients who are going to be implanted with a time-release drug called naltrexone, Naltrexone, which is, I guess the idea is to get them off their dependency of hard drugs. What is your thought about implanting people with time-released drugs like naltrexone?
I can't say it on the air.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's, I don't like it at all.
And how does that contrast with your non-invasive, non-chemical treatment of drug addiction? Would you please contrast what you do and
a big
your
difference
successes?
between perpetuating drug use and side effects and no negative risk whatsoever. That's the difference. It's like pouring gasoline on the fire.
Yeah. So, and that's what I didn't ever understand about, if using methadone as a substitute for narcotics. So if someone were addicted, they would put them on another drug to get them less addicted, or hopefully free them. But
crap is crap.
Yeah. Why is it, Dr. Shealy, do you think that since you're working with addicted people, that they become addicted? What causes this addiction in the first place?
Well, in general, the drugs cause you to lose your common sense. And I mean that very seriously. I've had a number of surgical operations, and way back, I found that the first thing, before you wake up practically, as you're just beginning to move, they come in and give you a shot of Demerol or something like that. And I learned that I don't like the fact that it totally interferes with my mental status. And my number one statement in the past when I've had surgery is, don't give me any of that crap. I don't want it. Mm-hmm. But some people like that feeling of loosey-goosiness. I mean, just the way some people like the effect of getting drunk. They lose control. And personally, I'm just totally against anything which takes away my ability to think straight.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about these people who come home from work? The guy or the gal who, it's just so stressful. And the first thing that they do when they get home is pour themselves an alcoholic beverage to take the edge off. And then it's 1, and then it's 2. How do we prevent them? How do they prevent becoming an alcoholic or a drug addict?
Well, I can't answer that because it takes a bit of insight to start with. In other words, we all have, like the 14-year-old you mentioned in the last segment who threw gas on the fire. Common sense tells me if something is known to be highly flammable, the flames are going to come out at you in the air before the gas gets consumed by the fire. And some people just don't have that kind of common sense. If it blocks your ability to make decisions, you're in trouble.
You know, when you think about it, I don't know what elementary school science teachers are doing, but I can imagine what they're not doing. You know, you can take one drop of gasoline, one drop, and if you put it in a paint can, and don't do this, class, but I'm not even going to tell you the whole story. But if you were to ignite one drop of fully atomized gasoline in a 1 gallon paint can, it could launch that paint can 20 feet in the air. One drop. Literally. One drop. Well, and don't do it. Don't do it. The reason I'm telling you that is over and over and over again, little tiny droplets of gasoline are atomized in your automobile engine. And the explosive power is so great that explosion after explosion after explosion is able to propel your car forward, up hills, tow a load, do amazing amount of work with just a very tiny amount of gasoline. As a matter of fact, there are vehicles that can go 30 miles on a gallon of gasoline. Now think of how much work it would take you to push your car 30 miles. Think of what that, I'm talking about get behind it and just push. But 1 gallon of gasoline can do that. That's how explosive it is. So I don't understand. I don't understand why science teachers aren't teaching things like that in school. It makes no sense to me. Dr. Shealy, we've become fat and lazy. We have convenience at our fingertips. Amazon makes it so easy, we don't even have to go to the store anymore. All we have to do is move our mouse, point to that thing we want to buy, say how many, point to whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many we want to buy, and click, and it's on its way. The reason I'm mentioning this is we take this for granted. We take for granted that it doesn't take any work to make things, because all you do is you just order them across the internet. We don't get up and change the channel on our TV that's putting us into a mindless coma. We don't grow our own food. We don't peel our own potatoes. Heck, why peel your potatoes when you can order them and have them delivered in a box, and you just, well, you actually have to open the box and mix it with water, stir it around, and then heat it in the microwave. Heck, I mean, what I'm saying is it's so easy today, but yet if you look around, we're paying a huge price. Well, not we, they, whoever they are that do these things are paying a huge price. They can't even walk anymore. They can't walk. They're too fat. Their bodies are so out of shape that they can't move.
And that's those who don't even bring the peeled potatoes home. They have them French fried outside and brought in.
That's right. That's exactly right. Order out. And it's encouraged in society that's what you do. You just go out to eat. You go out to eat. And you go out to eat. Dr. Shealy, I'm seeing at thrift stores the most amazing things. Joey encouraged me to look in thrift stores for cool things that people don't want. And I think what happens is the young people, the millennials, inherit things from their parents. You know, good quality, durable items like Revereware pots and pans, cast iron cookware, heavy quality things that you hardly see made anymore. And they bring it to these thrift stores, these charity thrift stores like a Goodwill, for example, and they get a tax receipt for it so they can get some kind of a tax deduction if they choose to do that. But they're not smart enough to say, you know what, they don't make pots and pans like this anymore. Maybe we should keep this. But they want to get rid of it. They can't wait to get rid of it. These are good quality things that we use for cooking the old-fashioned way on the stove. Pressure cookers, pressure canners, mason jars. Dr. Shealy, we don't do that anymore. And are you seeing the results of this as you walk around just looking at people saying, I'll bet you don't can your own food, do you?
Well, what's that mean?
Well, are you seeing more of that as I am, or am I seeing an anomaly where I'm seeing people don't do?
Obesity is rampant. Any way you look at it, people in this country are just plain fat.
Okay, and what should they do? What should they do to?
They should stop eating junk at the beginning, and they should stop watching television and take up just being active.
Being active. It's, that's something that is just part of my life. I was talking with Joey on the phone, and we were talking about how some people go on vacations and they spend an enormous amount of money going on, $10,000. They'll save and save and save, but they won't have enough, so they'll borrow the rest of it. Then they'll go on vacation, and it's not a vacation to learn things most of the time. Sometimes it is, like if someone goes and spends time with you, but most of the time, people go on these silly vacations. They don't learn anything. And I'm thinking that I'm on vacation all the time. I'm doing exactly what I want to do. It's not easy, but it's what I want to do. Everything's heavy. Everything's hard. Everything's far. And I'm active. And I'm not fat. I'm not fat at all. I weigh within just a couple % of my high school weight. The more I know about people, the less I generally like them. Here's an example. So there was I'm not kidding, Dr. Shealy. There's a young man, he's 27 years old, and he was visiting a friend's house, and he wasn't feeling so well, and he fell asleep on the couch. So his two buddies decided that, let's set him on fire. So they did. So he fell asleep on his friend's couch because he wasn't feeling well. So they took charcoal lighter fluid, and they squirted it on him and set him on fire. And he woke up, and he ran out of the house. And when he ran out of the house, they to put the fire out on his body, they squirted him again and set him on fire again. And then he wanted to go get treatment, and they took his car keys. This is what friends do. This is what stupid millennials do to each other. And so this guy's fighting for his life. He has third-degree burns over his entire body. He's in excruciating pain. He looks like he was cooked on a barbecue grill. Absolutely awful. Taking his keys, all of these things. So he's now fighting for his life. I don't understand why people do these things. He's in the trauma center in Philadelphia, and he's been there for a very long time. He's lost 30 pounds since his attack. He spent 6 weeks in critical condition in intensive care. I mean, just the cost of this is going to be horrendous. His life has been forever altered. He can no longer do the things that he used to do. His body can't perspire or cool on its own. He's got skin grafts from his thighs, pig skin covering his back and his arms. He's lost the use of his arm. I mean, this guy is in bad shape. And he can't do the HVAC work that he used to do. He worked for a heating, ventilation, and air conditioning company. He can't do that any longer. So what happened to the guys who did it? They're just charged with aggravated assault, arson and conspiracy. Sounds to me like it's attempted murder. I mean, setting someone on fire twice? Dr. Shealy, I see that we are going down. We have lost our collective minds. I don't like it. I don't want to be around people.
All you got to do is wait another 20 years. I'm serious. Another 20 years, and there won't be any new children. This country will disappear after 2040 because already our fertility rate is down to 40, male fertility rate is down to 40 million sperm. When it gets to 20 million, we can't reproduce. So in approximately 20 years, there'll be no children, no great-grandchildren, no grandchildren, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the end of the country. Now, this country is going to be gone before any other country in the world because of fluoride. And that's stupidity and malevolence at the national level.
When you say fluoride, are you talking about how we've become less intelligent, how we do stupid things like you and I have been talking about during this broadcast, setting people on fire?
Yep. All of the above.
Throwing gasoline on a fire. Well, I believe you're right, Dr. Shealy. And I've used this term last week. I said there's a new term that I'd like our class to learn, and it's called step over. Step over. And I said, what'll be happening is you are going to be stepping over all these people who are lying down dead on the floor, on the ground, because of their own stupidity, their own unwillingness to learn and plan and take care of themselves. So we're going to have to step over them, and man, will it stink. I really believe it. I really believe it. I see, Dr. Shealy, I see people in flip-flops. They'll be driving their car, and they are 100% certain that they're not going to run out of gas, they're not going to have a flat tire, nothing is going to happen, and they're not going to have to walk anywhere. So they will be driving along with flip-flops, no shoes that they can hike anywhere in, should they have a problem. I see it every day. It's unbelievable. When we come back, can we talk about how Washington State is going to allow human body composting? Class, if you'd like to contact Dr. Shealy, Norm at normshealy.com, Norm at normshealy.com. Shealy is spelled Shealy. And telephone number in Springfield is 417-521-5221. 417-521-5221. I'm sorry. One more time.
321-5221.
I'm sorry. So it's 417-321-5221. 417-321-5221. I'm sorry about that, Dr. Shealy. So in Washington State, the governor is about to sign a bill legalizing the composting of deceased humans. So in Washington, you can be buried, you can be cremated, or you can be composted. No kidding. For about $5,500, you can be a box of compost, and your family can use you to plant a tree.
Guys, it's cheap
this is
to be
like
cremated.
Yes. And, I would prefer to be buried on my own property. And people have done that. People have done that. For years. For years, if you had, let's say, a farm, and you had a family living on the farm, there would be, in one part of the farm, a cemetery, a family cemetery. Literally. There'd be a little chain around it, and there would be some headstones, and people would bury their loved ones on their property. But we seem to turn away from that, Dr. Shealy. We've turned away from burying on our own property. We want to bury them where someone else can take care of them, mow the lawn above them, and those kinds of things. And this one, turning loved ones into compost, I think, is something that's beyond the pale to me. They'll turn to compost naturally.
My wife and I, 25 years ago, paid $1,200 each to be cremated.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care what they do with the ashes, personally. They just throw them anywhere. If they want to bury them, fine. But, I mean, why waste money? I figure the kids wouldn't dare do something different when we've already paid for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you made sure your wishes are followed. I like the idea of being buried on our farm. We have a neighbor who wants to be cremated, but he wants to do it a different way. He wants to be cremated the way the American Indians used to cremate their dead. They would build a tower of logs, and they would put the deceased on like a bed on top of the tower, and then they'd light this whole tower on fire. So it'd be a big bonfire. And that would be what our Native American friends would do. And it's going back to nature. But this process of, and I don't know the exact process of going into compost is, but it does not sound like it's something that I would want to be involved in or choose for someone who left the choice to me.
It gives new meaning to burn in public square.
Yes. So it's something that is now on the governor's desk in the state of Washington. Dr. Shealy, there are people who do some strange things. And I'm looking at, there's a website called The Sun, and it's like a magazine. Well, there's this guy that has spikes sticking out of the top of his head. So he shaves his head, and he has nails sticking out from his scalp. Then there are other images where he's got these bumps under his skin. So he's implanted what would be like an impression poking through his skin of a skull, like skull and crossbones kind of skull. Lumps, this guy's got lumps, bumps. He's got lumps on his forehead. It looks like Christmas cookies underneath the skin. Weird things. He has disfigured his ears by putting these hoops inside his earlobes and generally or gradually expanded them. So now they're like, 3 inches in diameter, his earlobes. Can you talk about the medical reasons why we shouldn't be doing these kinds of things?
Well, there are two. Number one, first of all, you're crazy as hell. This to me is a true psychosis. And second, you are damaging your entire immune system. And if you're using nails, heaven only knows what heavy metal poisoning you're going to get. This is slightly worse than putting silver mercury fillings into your teeth.
It seems like it's almost like beyond stupid to me to have someone cut you open and then insert this. I don't know what it even would be. Like
Garbage.
This one guy has on top of on his wrist, he's got the impression of a hand grenade. It's almost half the surface area of his hand, the top of his hand. He's got a hand grenade impression. It looks like it sticks up maybe almost a half an inch.
And so pull the plug.
Under his skin, words escape me. I don't know what I would do if I encountered somebody like this. May I take your order? Someone at a restaurant who's got these bumps sticking out of their forehead, spikes sticking out of their head. there's one guy who he didn't like the shape of his ears. They were rounded at the top. So he made them pointy, literally cut his ear and then stitched it back together. So now he's got points. Another guy has ground his teeth. So instead of being the normal shape of teeth, they look like my dog's teeth. They're pointy at the bottom. So like triangles. And he's tattooed his entire head, neck, ears, arms. He's cut his tongue so it's now split. So instead of his tongue coming to either a rounded end or a pointed end, it comes to like a butterfly. Have you experienced anybody walking into your office that's done this, Dr. Shealy?
Well, I've had somebody with a ring in their tongue. And personally, I guess I'm still stuck somewhere in the 19th century because I don't really like to see earrings in men. I think earrings in women are pretty,
right?
But somehow in a man it just is repulsive. And I realize that's politically incorrect, but that's life.
When I was teaching computer science in high school, I had a code of conduct and a contract with our students that talked about jewelry. And a guy showed up in my class, a young man, with diamond earrings in his ear. I threw him out of my classroom. I told him it was unacceptable. We're running a computer manufacturing operation. Customers are coming in all the time. I wouldn't have it. And it was as simple as diamond earrings on a guy. I would not have it. I threw him out. You know what? I got away with it. I got away with throwing my student out of my class for wearing earrings.
You couldn't. I bet you couldn't do it today.
I'll bet you I couldn't either. I'll bet you I'd be sued. For his violating his freedom of speech. Well, we've talked about this culture in America of culture of laziness, and on average, Americans sit a little over 8 hours a day, 8.2 hours a day. Now, in addition to that, we sleep 7 or 8 hours a day. So most of our life, we're either sitting or lying down. Most of the hours of our life, every day, 8.2 hours of sitting and about 8 hours of sleeping. And from what I've read, Dr. Shealy, and learned, that this is one of the main contributors to obesity, which drives high blood pressure. It is a cause of sugar diabetes or glucose diabetes, high blood cholesterol and triglycerides, heart attacks due to coronary heart disease, heart failure, and stroke, bone and joint problems, osteoarthritis,
premature death,
and sleep apnea, gallstones and liver problems, some cancers, but sleep apnea. Because I was at a doctor's office for my just checkup, and there are all these masks. Like, which one do you prefer? Do you want? And it's like 8 masks for these positive airway pressure delivery systems, so people can sleep at night. I can't believe it. I don't remember that when I was a child. I don't remember anyone having sleep apnea. Is that because we are on our butts so much, just sitting and sleeping and avoiding movement? Is that what it is? I mean, what is it? Can we talk about sleep apnea when we come back, Dr. Shealy? I think it's a big problem. People have come to our house, and I'll say, okay, well, there's a whole bunch of you, so we can pair you guys up in this room. No, I got to have my own room. So I have this sleep equipment that I have to have. We'll be right back. Dr. Norm Shealy's with us, and the website is normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. Dr. Shealy, we've had guests stay at the farmhouse in the past, and they've insisted on having their own room. And then they said to us, well, I've got this sleep problem, and I have this mask, and, I don't want to interfere with other people. And so they didn't want to tell us that they had sleep apnea. And they had the CPAP machines, which is a continuous positive airway pressure machine. What can you tell us about what drives someone to want to wear one of these machines? Is there a series of symptoms that would tell them that?
Well, they come close to dying sometimes they have sleep apnea, which means they can go for many seconds to a minute without breathing, and it interferes with their sleep, and it's dangerous.
But what causes that? I mean, I've heard of people dying in their sleep. That was considered natural causes years ago.
Well,
but is it the same thing?
Sleep apnea, a huge majority of the time, is obesity. But it can happen for neurologic reasons, some damage to the brainstem itself, to the breathing mechanism, more or less.
Okay. Well, is there something that we should know about that would tell us that, hey, we should visit a medical doctor about sleep apnea? Is there something that what symptoms do we look for?
Well, if you know you wake up frequently, or your partner, if you're someone else sleeping in the bedroom with you, knows that you snore, not just snore, but you gasp and stop gasping, etc. Yes, if it's just you, the only way you would know if you live alone and don't have symptoms that tell you that is just significant. You start getting enough rest from sleep, and you don't have anything else going on.
Okay, so you can't find, you don't know the cause of being tired, I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, beyond that, yeah.
Okay. Is getting up to use to urinate, for example, at night, is that a symptom or is that unrelated?
That's related more to the bladder and or prostate, yes. That is not particularly related to sleep apnea.
What are your thoughts about the correlation among high blood pressure, diabetes, heart problems, and sleep apnea? Are they all related?
To some extent, yes. That is, the more pounds you got, the more symptoms you get, the more diseases you get.
That was said so well, Dr. Shealy. I've never heard it that way. The more you weigh, the more symptoms you get. Okay.
Well, it is definitely true.
Yeah.
There's a straight line correlation.
What do you think about these CPAP machines? Are they something that you would consider if you had these problems?
I don't think so. I would have great difficulty because I don't think I could sleep with them. But people do. Some people think they're wonderful. We all have our tolerances. Mm-hmm. But to me, that would be, an advanced symptom of going south.
Okay. And it seems that that as you mentioned, obesity is absolutely directly correlated to sleep apnea, and it seems that the throat can be blocked by, I guess, excessive fat. Is that what it is?
That is what it is.
So much weight.
Yep.
So much weight.
Yeah.
Very quickly, Dr. Shealy, is there a position that you recommend sleeping? Because I sleep on my left, on my right, on my back, on my left, on my right, and I'm turning,
whatever's
all the time. Okay.
Well, I turn several times a night, I know, but I go back to sleep.
Right. That's what I do. Okay. And quickly, does sleep apnea get worse untreated?
Often. Yes, often. Very much so. that does
Dr. Shealy,
need
thanks.
consultation.
Thank you so much for being with us. That's
Great
Dr.
day.
Norm Shealy. Thank you, Dr. Shealy.